back with this week's episode of Outlandish Comparison. Today we will be comparing the book, The Fiery Cross, with episode 7 from season 5 of Outlander, The Ballad of Roger Mac. When I saw that title cross the screen, I literally got chills. As a singer and a long-term reader of the books, I just felt the ominous sensation of what was coming. And I also thought it was really evocative how they just had someone writing a song in the future, you know, with a Yamaha piano and a guitar, and writing a song maybe based on a story that they saw in history, a folk song. And I don't actually know many folk songs from the 18th century, but I love a lot of folk songs from the 19th century. They are so haunting, beautiful, and there's a lot of sadness, and so I just totally got chills when the title appeared. This was definitely my favorite episode from season 5 so far. I felt by and large it ran pretty much perfectly parallel with the book, and I don't need stories to automatically adapt directly book to show or book to movie, but I just felt like the material in the book is so strong already that it doesn't need much adjusting to make it work visually. The only major difference between the book and episode 7 is that if you are a reader of the books, you already know that in the book version, Murtaugh has long been dead. He died at the Battle of Culloden. So that was more than 20 years ago in our timeline. So I think they just kept Murtaugh around because, let's face it, how awesome was Murtaugh as a character from episode 1 of season 1. He just nailed it. He was funny. He was intense. So I think people just loved Murtaugh as a character and wanted to keep him around. So it was like, hey, why not? That is really the only big difference between episode 7 and the book. The Fiery Cross has always been my favorite book of the Outlander book series. And I always felt that this part of the story was always a huge warning of curiosity killed the cat. Being the historian that he is and just being from the future, Roger has this kind of insatiable curiosity of just things as they're happening. Wow, I am living this, and I read about this in a book. How fascinating is that? And one of those things is his own lineage. We did not find out in the series thus far who Roger's ancestors of the Mackenzie line really were. But if we think back over our season 1 and 2, we've known some Mackenzies. And I think it was so exciting that they brought back Graham McTavish to play William Buckley Mackenzie. My husband caught it immediately. He heard the voice and he was like, what? And it was so cool that they brought him back because it's kind of an ode to Tobias Menzies' duality playing Frank Randall and Blackjack Randall. It was kind of a similar thing, so I thought it was very cool, and it makes it clear, okay, I know who that's supposed to be. And if they didn't clearly mention who the mother is, we can think back to the first season and remember, who was pregnant? That's right, Galis Duncan. So bringing back Graham McTavish in this role was fantastic, and it was quite surprising as the audience. I thought that was a real highlight moment. If you remember back, Roger had been aboard the Gloriana with evil Captain Stephen Bonnet, who wanted to throw everyone overboard that had a disease. And it was very horrible because he was going to throw some babies overboard. And Roger saved this baby because the mother said, I know that my baby's not sick, they're just having, you know, normal baby things. And that person ended up being Morag Mackenzie. We didn't meet William Buckley Mackenzie then. Roger remembers how he saved Morag's son, Jemmy, also Jemmy, like his son, and just that she is also his ancestor, and his heart goes out to her, and he wants to warn her, look, this battle is, you need to get out of here. And he can't contain himself, and he gives her a kiss in the book, he gives her a hug in the show, because it's like, this is my old grandma, essentially. And he has that curiosity to touch the past, and he gets burned by it. Now, something they didn't do in the show that I just wish they would have done, because it just drives the point home and makes it a bit clearer, that they didn't have William Buckley Mackenzie gag Roger and bind him up so he couldn't speak for himself. Roger doesn't get the ability to say, no, I am being wrongly hung. I am on Tryon's side. You know, he doesn't get to speak for himself, and that's how he ends up being hung. So I just wish they would have had, you know, Buck do that, so that it's clear that Roger had no ability to testify for himself. I thought a really beautiful highlight in the show was how it opened up and you had Roger playing and singing Clementine to Jemmy. And as we know, that song was written after the Gold Rush. You know, there's a line in it, a minor 49er. So it's a song that they wouldn't have known. And in the book, they do actually have Roger singing Clementine much, much later down the line. But it's a really great reference, and I was just so happy to get one more example of Roger singing and his beautiful voice before it was taken away from him. In the book, we kind of follow Roger more in real time during the battle and the aftermath, but I thought it was also cool the way they did the show, where we went away from him and we didn't know what happened, and then all of a sudden, whoa, he is there hanging. Something that I felt like is very cool that they did in the book. We didn't just hear from Jamie or Claire or Roger or Bree's voice. We actually went and had these little journal entries from William Tryon, the governor. And I felt the title of this chapter was very fitting, called A Necessary Sacrifice. Doesn't that just sound like a politician? This evening, the dead were interred with military honors, and 3 outlaws taken in the battle were hanged at the head of the army. This gave great satisfaction to the men at this time, as it was a necessary sacrifice to appease the murmurings of the troops. He's just doing this to shut everyone up, but doesn't give them the opportunity to have a fair trial and to actually find out really who these people were. I really liked these journal entries in the book because it really showed the cold, calculating nature of, you know, the governor, a politician, and I don't know, I thought they were really interesting. I think we were all quite sad when Murtaugh was finally killed, and especially because they made it by one of Jamie's own men, you know, a young person who Jamie had just said, like, look, you know, this is what war's about, we gotta, it's not pretty, and I think we all got a little teary-eyed, or actually shed some tears. But, you know, I was expecting this, knowing that Murtaugh had been dead long ago, and, you know, I thought it was quite awesome they gave him more story to tell in the series as it is. So I was happy that this was his end, that he got to die in battle, and I thought it was really cool because he echoed exactly what he said to Jamie originally at Culloden, that dying doesn't hurt. And I thought that was really neat that they brought that back. I also was glad that they brought Isaiah Morton back. If you recall, his love affair with Alicia Brown in Brownsville did not make a couple of her male relatives too happy. And in the book version, Isaiah comes in shot in the back, but the Browns never turn up again. So it's obvious that way who did it. But in the show, I thought it was also cool that they had the Browns being mean again, and oh, we're gonna break the syringe of Claire's so that he can't get any medicine. I thought it was quite heartbreaking to just end the episode with Roger hanging there, you know. It was just so chilling, and I just felt electric. So I loved this episode. This is what made me love The Fiery Cross as a book. Just every character goes through their own tragedy, and Rogers is losing his voice, which is so much a part of who he is, being a singer and musician. And so for me, I've always very much related to Roger, and I couldn't have asked for a better episode. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notifications for more outlandish comparisons of The Fiery Cross. Have a great week.